So with tensions rising between Russia and the West, I'm asking, is the UK ready for war? After all, that is a possibility. So I'm joined now by security specialist Will Geddes. Will, thank you for joining us. Firstly, let's talk about what do you make of the latest war of words from the Kremlin about the West and on the West, and of course the banning of some of our leaders from Moscow or Russia even?
Well, good afternoon, Nana. I would say that, it's just saber rattling really on behalf of Putin. I don't think it's going to make a considerable amount of difference really to the cabinet here in the UK. I think, Boris Johnson and the rest of the team will probably not lose a moment's sleep over it. It is saber rattling, but Putin has a limited amount of armory, so to speak, to throw at this situation. And he knows that if he pushes too far, it's really going to escalate potentially into a World War III.
Because obviously the latest, with the bombing of the submarine by Ukraine. Of course, now Russia have admitted that it was actually a bomb. Apparently it was one that was supplied by us, and there was the retaliation, for the armament factory in Ukraine. In your view, then, because we seem to be getting more involved and Putin is sort of saying, oh, well, it's Britain representing NATO, so he's kind of separating us. If something were to sort of kick off, do you think we're ready?
Well, yes, we're very well protected over here, Nana. We have incredibly good capability in terms of the size of military capability that we have here. We rank as 8th in the world. And when you consider number 1 is the United States, who have somewhat unlimited budgets to throw at their defense, Moscow being 2nd, China, India, we come pretty high. And in Europe, in fact, we're 2nd after France. But what we've got to consider here, and I think where Boris Johnson and the UK government's got to be very cautious, is that they don't end up, as you rightly saying, isolating us from NATO. This has to be a considered group effort in terms of the defences, and not only in terms of equipping Ukraine, but in terms of our position of alignment to the Ukraine. It's got to be a universal front.
Yeah, because as I'm listening, in the strategy in my mind, I think in Vladimir Putin's mind, he's always singled Britain out, and he's doing it again, isn't he? Singling us out to make us a target, to say almost as though we are behaving in a way as an arm of NATO, but not part of NATO. And that is a worrying sort of development or a trend that seems to be happening. And then, of course, there's Russia with their reliance on their gas and oil from Vladimir Putin. Would you say that right now, what else do you think we should be doing in terms of helping for Ukraine without kind of singling us out as a target?
Well, to go to your earlier point, actually, the reason why we're more likely to be singled out than any other European country is because of our financial markets. And through the City of London, and certainly through our financial markets, Russia has had a lot of advantages and benefits in terms of their trading internationally. So our imposing of sanctions, particularly in those financial markets and particularly on Russian foreign holdings, has put them in a really precarious predicament. And this is where we're seeing the economic reverberations. But in terms of a military strategy, the Times newspaper has just disclosed that members of UK Special Forces have been on the ground in Ukraine, assisting the Ukrainian defence and military in terms of providing them the training to actually use some of the equipment that's being provided. But again, it's a case of all other members of NATO, all other European countries throwing themselves into the mix as well. So, although it's been a somewhat clandestine, let's call it covert, it's hardly clandestine, support of Ukraine, this is something which will have implications for everybody. But again, we have some incredibly good capabilities. What we've shown by sinking battleship Moskva is the fact that, we are able to provide Ukraine with that capability that Russia can't control the Sea of Azov, which we know that they've been trying to.
Well, listen, it's really good to talk to you. Very, very briefly, I just wanted to ask you briefly, in terms of war, if we did sort of have to go to war, what kind of war do you see? I hope you're not visualising something nuclear. Do you think it would be boots on the ground? Briefly, what's your vision on that?
Yeah, I think it would be boots on the ground. I think highly unlikely that it would be any kind of nuclear retaliation, but something for your co-guest to chew over maybe. on the Biden/Trump approach to the situation. I recall that when Trump turned round to Putin and said, if he launches a capability or an attack on the Ukraine, then I will retaliate with everything we've got. Now, although Putin said 90% of him didn't believe him, there was that 10% doubt which could have kept him at bay.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That's